long-term health effects. All right, and then the effects of social disconnection on the body. Professor McDonald and I did a study a little while ago, and what we did was we told healthy participants that we were investigating the effects of two different topically applied substances. These are natural food substances, and we wanted to test the effects of these substances on the perception of pain in response to pressure that was applied to the finger, and the degree to which this perception of pain might be altered by psychological factors. We used what's called a pressure algometer. This is actually a picture of the device, and this is a crank. And you put your hand. Well, there's not a loop here in the actual. And you put your hand there, and the algometer is lowered so that it presses onto the finger. Well, if you push enough, you get pain. And then we asked people to rate. We had a calibration beforehand to determine people's level. Because some people, you just barely touch their finger and it's like, pain. And other people, you lower and lower until you figure that you're almost broke. You're going to break their finger before they say, yeah, I'm starting to feel something now. Did the experiment start? Did you start? Yeah. Okay. So then they rated these. Then we had a number of trials where we lowered the thing, and then to their level of their pain threshold level. And we asked them to rate the intensity and unpleasantness of the painful pressure, both before and after a social experience. Okay. The social experience was we asked them to have an exchange with another person who they thought was another participant, but who actually was a Confederate working for us. It was actually a trained actress. And she was told to behave in one of two ways. One was positive, which was very warm, friendly, interested, making lots of eye contact. And the other one, negative. Actually, I use the term negative, but not quite negative, more neutral. In the neutral condition, she acted in a way that was more aloof, cool, uninterested, making little eye contact, sort of like, yeah, okay, this kind of thing. And what they were doing was, they were doing something called the closeness induction task. It was a very structured kind of social task. And it consists of a number of questions about your life. What was the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you? If you could live in one place in the world, where would you want to live? Things like that. And then they took turns answering these questions. Okay? So in the friendly condition, the Confederate always went, really? You wanted to go to Vancouver? Me too. That's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And in the negative condition, oh, you want to go to Vancouver? Oh, okay. Yeah, this kind of thing. Okay. And then there was a control group that was simply asked to ask about, answer, or think about the answers to the questions that were on this task. Okay, so what happened? For the negative, the people who got the neutral experience, which is the blue zone here, they experienced a significant drop in pain sensitivity. Not an increase, but a drop in pain sensitivity. It went let's say the pain intensity went from 5.9 to 4.6. This is on a 0 to 10 scale. Unpleasantness dropped from 4.6 to 3.38. Not only were they highly significant, but the D values here is a measure of effect size, and 0.93 and 0.95 are considered to be large effect sizes. So this was a large effect. But also, interesting was that the positive group, and we were a little bit surprised about this, particularly, the positive group experienced no change in pain. Neither went up nor down, stayed the same. Now I want to add that this positive, the positive group, the Confederate in the positive condition was extremely positive. She wasn't just a little bit positive, she went overboard with positive. As a matter of fact, when we were going through the pilot test, the big problem was getting her to be negative enough. She was just so friendly that even in the negative condition, people were rating her very highly. So we have to work on that. So this was very positive, but yet it had no effect. So really, the study was really the first of its kind to show hypoalgesia. Hypoalgesia is a drop in pain sensitivity in reaction to everyday social experiment. These are the kinds of experiences you get in every day. We talk to somebody and they're not particularly responsive. Well, what this shows is that something as simple as the demeanor with which a clinician approaches a patient can impact pain reports, right? So if you go to a doctor, and the doctor is not very responsive and is kind of aloof, right, as many are, it could very well impact your pain reports. You might actually report lower levels of pain. Meanwhile, back at home, you're in excruciating pain. You come to the doctor, and the doctor's kind of a little, I haven't been feeling too bad lately. So, some interesting implications. But the other, perhaps even more interesting implication is it seems to suggest, it implies, we don't have enough evidence to say this, so there's just a little bit of conjecture, but it does imply that what's happening, there is a phenomenon known as stress-induced analgesia. It's a very, very well established phenomenon, particularly in animals. So when you stress animals, either by isolating them or in the many various ways that you can stress animals, restrain them, things like that, what you find is a reduction in pain sensitivity. Why is that? Because it turns out what happens is that when an animal, including ourselves, when we experience some sort of a stressful situation, acute stressful situation, we have the need to get the hell out of that situation, escape, and survive. So what happens is we go into this fight or flight mode, which you may have heard. Well, the fight or flight mode basically consists of a whole cascade of physiological responses. One of those responses, one of those components of the fight or flight response is analgesia. Analgesia is a reduction in pain sensitivity, and that's because if you're facing a dangerous situation, you may get injured, and if you're hobbled by pain, you're not going to survive. You're going to be hobbled by pain, and the lion is going to eat you. So you need to be able to get out of the situation, and once you're out of the situation, the numbness, the analgesia recedes, and then you feel the pain. But that's okay because supposedly you're safe. So we believe that what may be happening is this stress-induced. Well, if that's what's happened, then it may mean that people are being exposed to chronic levels of stress, just through just relatively mildly negative social experiences. And then there was another study. I wasn't originally going to talk about, but it just came into mind, and I just think this is one of the most fascinating findings that I've read. There was a study that was done a few years ago, and that what they did was they stressed, I think it was rats. They stressed these rats repeatedly, chronically, I think through maternal separating them from their mothers. And they did this for a long period of time, for some weeks. They found, so they compared this group of stressed rats with a group of rats that were not stressed. They found that the group of rats that were stressed demonstrated the stress-induced analgesia, just as you would expect. But here's the interesting thing. After they were exposed to the stress for a long period of time, what happened was that these rats, they gave some of the rats morphine, okay, before they gave them a pain test. And what they found was, and they gave both the rats that were stressed and the rats that were not stressed morphine before a pain test. They found that the rats that were not stressed, okay, responded to the morphine. It had an analgesic effect, just as you would expect. And the morphine is a pretty powerful painkiller. But the rats who were stressed repeatedly did not respond to the morphine. They felt the full power of the painful stimulus. The morphine did diddly squat for them. And that's fascinating because it suggests that it may very well be that opioids or morphine-like substances that are released by the brain naturally may actually cause a person to become tolerant to morphine. So that has some interesting implications. It means that for people who are socially isolated, when the time comes, maybe when they might need morphine to help them with physical pain, they may not respond as effectively to morphine as people who did not experience chronic social isolation. So